Something's operating in your reality right now that you've never stopped to question. You've been taught that time moves in one direction, like a train on tracks, carrying you from yesterday through today toward tomorrow. But here's what nobody told you. That linear timeline you experience every single day, it's not how time actually works. It's a trick your brain creates to help you function. And once you see through this illusion, once you understand that time operates as a loop instead of a line, your entire life starts moving faster than you thought possible. Things you believed would take years begin showing up in weeks. Patterns that seemed permanent dissolve overnight. Your future self is already reaching backward to guide you right now, and your past is still fluid, still changeable, still responding to who you're becoming today. This isn't abstract theory. This is the physics of acceleration. And everything changes the moment you stop trying to move forward through time and start recognizing you're already existing across all of it simultaneously.
Right now, something's happening that shapes every single choice you make, every goal you set, every moment of stress or excitement you feel. You've learned to see time as a straight line stretching from your past, through where you stand right now, into whatever comes next. It's like a one-way road where you're constantly moving forward, where what happened is finished, where tomorrow hasn't arrived yet. But what I'm going to show you will completely transform how you understand cause and effect itself. Once you truly see this, once you genuinely recognize that time works as a loop instead of a line, your whole life begins accelerating in ways that seem impossible when you're stuck in linear thinking. Stop right now and pay attention to how you think about your existence. You've got memories sitting behind you, plans stretching ahead of you, and here you are, standing in this present moment, this now, watching time flow past like water in a river, carrying you from the day you were born toward the day you'll die. This linear model feels so natural, so obviously true, that questioning it sounds ridiculous. But scientists who study the brain and quantum physicists have uncovered something that mystics have understood for thousands of years. The linear way you experience time isn't how time actually functions. It's a perceptual trick your brain creates to help you move through three-dimensional space. And this trick is the main reason your life feels slow, stuck, limited by what looks like a huge distance between where you are and where you want to be. Here's what actually occurs when you shift from seeing time as a line to experiencing it as a loop. Events that looked years away suddenly show up in your present. Patterns that seemed like they'd require decades to change dissolve in a few weeks. Growth that appeared to need slow, gradual progress happens in sudden quantum jumps. Not because you've figured out how to control time, but because you've stopped fighting against how time actually works. You've stopped trying to push forward through time and started recognizing that all moments exist at the same time, in a closed-loop system, where your future self is already affecting your present self, where your present choices are already reaching backward to reshape your past, where cause and effect flow in both directions at once. Let me show you something right now that'll give you direct proof of how time's loop structure actually works. This isn't theory. This is something you can verify in the next 3 minutes. Think about an important decision you need to make. Something with real weight, real consequences. Maybe it's about a relationship, a career move, a health choice, something that actually matters. Right now, from your current linear viewpoint, you're standing in front of this decision, trying to figure out the right choice. You're looking at options, weighing pros and cons, attempting to predict what'll happen based on where you are right now. This is how we've been taught to make decisions. Gather information, think it through, choose the path that seems most likely to give you what you want. But here's what I want you to do instead. Close your eyes and project yourself 5 years into the future. Not vaguely, specifically. Picture it's exactly 5 years from today. You're living your life in that future moment. And from that future position, Look back at this decision you're facing right now. What do you see? What does your future self know about this choice that your present self is struggling with? Don't think about it with your logical mind. Feel into it. Let your awareness move forward in time, and then look backward at this present moment. What you're about to notice will feel strange, almost like remembering something that hasn't happened yet. Your future self already knows how this decision played out, and somehow, impossibly, you can access that information right now, not through logic or prediction, but through a direct connection across time that exists because time isn't actually linear. If you did that exercise honestly, you probably experienced something unexpected, a clarity, a knowing, a sense of which choice carries the energy of your desired future. This isn't intuition in some vague sense. This is your future self, which already exists in the quantum probability field, communicating backward through time to guide your present choice. Scientists call this retrocausality, the ability of future events to influence past and present ones. And while mainstream physics is still uncomfortable with what this means, the experimental evidence is undeniable. Studies on quantum particles have proven that measurements made in the future can determine how particles behave in the past. Time doesn't flow in one direction. Cause and effect work both ways. And your consciousness can access information from multiple time positions simultaneously because all those positions exist now, in the eternal present that sits underneath the illusion of linear time. Here's a practical exercise. For the next 7 days, practice this time perception shift every morning for 10 minutes. Sit quietly and let your awareness expand out of this narrow present moment. Feel into tomorrow, not by thinking about it, by placing your consciousness there. What does tomorrow morning feel like? What quality does it carry? Then expand further. Feel into next week, next month, next year. You're not visualizing or imagining. You're sensing the energetic signature of different time positions. Notice that these future moments aren't empty possibilities waiting to be filled. They already have a quality, a texture, a feeling tone. That's because they already exist in the loop. Your future isn't being created as you move forward. It already exists, and you're navigating between existing versions through your choices and frequency signature. After sensing into your future, reverse the process. Feel into yesterday, last week, last year. But here's the key shift. Don't experience your past as fixed, unchangeable, done. Experience it as a living part of the loop that's still accessible, still responsive to your present consciousness. Your past isn't behind you. It's simultaneous with your present, held in the same quantum field, still receiving information from your current state of awareness. This is why people experience spontaneous healing of childhood trauma, why old wounds can suddenly resolve without years of therapy, why limiting beliefs installed decades ago can dissolve in a single moment of recognition. The past isn't sealed. It's fluid, responsive, part of the active loop system. What you'll discover through this practice is that your linear perception of time creates artificial barriers between moments that are actually continuous. You've been experiencing time like someone watching a movie, frame by frame, believing each frame is separate, disconnected, occurring in sequence. But when you shift to loop perception, you realize you're not watching frames in sequence. You're existing within the entire film simultaneously, with full access to any moment. Because all moments are happening now, in the eternal present that contains the entire loop. In the comments, drop one thing you truly want to manifest, something that's most important for you right now. Maybe it's financial abundance. Maybe it's a loving relationship. Maybe it's health and vitality. Maybe it's something uniquely yours. Let this be a small but profound declaration, a signal to the universe you send not just in this space, but in the quantum field itself. And here's something exciting. I'm giving away 2 one-on-one free sessions to help you bring it to life. Be honest. Be you. Now let me reveal exactly why your life has felt stuck, why progress seems to take forever, why the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels so huge. It's not because change is actually slow. It's because you've been operating from linear time perception, which creates the experience of distance between time positions. When you believe you're here in the present and your desired life is there in the future, you create the experience of having to travel through time to reach it. And that perceived journey creates delay, friction, the sensation of time dragging. But here's what happens the moment you recognize time as a loop. The distance between present and future collapses. Because in a loop, every point is equally distant from every other point. There's no far away. There's no long journey ahead. There's only different positions on the same circle, all equally accessible, all existing simultaneously. Your desired future isn't distant. It's right here on the other side of the loop, which means it's touching your present moment at every instant. The only thing separating you from it is your perception of linear separation. Think about this carefully. Right now, as you hear these words, there exists a version of you living your ideal life, not in some distant future that hasn't happened yet, but in a parallel time position that exists simultaneously with this moment. Quantum physics has proven through the many worlds interpretation that all possible versions of reality exist in superposition. Every choice, every possibility, every potential timeline is real, actual, existing right now in the quantum field. The version of you who made different choices and is experiencing different results isn't hypothetical. That version exists as validly as the version listening to these words right now. So manifestation, transformation, life change, none of it is about creating something new or traveling forward through time to reach a better future. It's about shifting your consciousness from one position on the loop to another. It's about changing which version of the simultaneously existing realities you're experiencing. And that shift happens instantly, not gradually. Because you're not moving through time, you're changing your temporal orientation within time's loop structure. Here's something that'll fundamentally change how you understand your life story. Everything significant that's happened to you, every major turning point, every crucial decision, was influenced by your future self reaching backward through time. The moments you called intuition, synchronicity, luck, divine intervention, most of them were actually retrocausal signals from future versions of you, guiding your past self toward choices that would lead to where you needed to be. I can prove this to you through your own experience. Think about a major life decision you made years ago, one that at the time felt uncertain, risky, potentially wrong, but something compelled you to choose it anyway. Maybe you took a job that didn't make logical sense. Maybe you moved to a new city for no clear reason. Maybe you ended or began a relationship based on a feeling rather than rational analysis. And when you look back now, you can see that choice was absolutely necessary for your development, for positioning you where you needed to be, for teaching you what you needed to learn. From the linear perspective, you got lucky. You made a good guess. You accidentally stumbled into the right decision. But from the loop perspective, something else was happening. Your future self, the version of you that exists further along the loop and has already experienced the outcomes of different choices, was sending retrocausal signals backward to your past self. And your past self, your younger consciousness, picked up those signals as intuition, as gut feeling, as inexplicable knowing. You weren't guessing or hoping. You were receiving information from a future position on the loop, even though your conscious mind had no framework for understanding that's what was happening. Scientists studying quantum retrocausality have discovered that particles can be affected by measurements that haven't been made yet. The future state of a system can determine its past behavior. This isn't science fiction. This is documented, repeatable, peer-reviewed physics. And if it's true at the quantum level, it's true at every level, including the level of your consciousness making choices through time. Your future constantly reaches back to guide your present. Your present constantly reaches back to reshape your past. And your past constantly reaches forward to inform your future. It's a loop. Everything's connected to everything else, across all time positions simultaneously. Before we go deeper, I want to invite you into something real. If you've been feeling like something's clicking, if a part of you is recognizing your own power, tap that like button if you just had an aha moment, because like attracts like, and hit subscribe. Stay with this space. Grow with us. Join the Manifestation Club. Links in the description. This isn't just a channel, it's a frequency. If you felt a shift while watching, you're already tuned in. Let me share a practice that'll establish a conscious, deliberate connection between your present consciousness and your future self, allowing retrocausal information to flow more clearly. Do this for 21 days consecutively. Sit in a quiet space and close your eyes. Take several deep breaths to center your awareness. Then speak directly to your future self, the version of you that exists 1 year from now. Say something like this: I know you exist right now, 1 year ahead on the loop. I know you can perceive me from your position just as I'm reaching toward you from mine. I'm asking you to send clear signals backward to guide my choices. Show me what I need to see, what I need to know, what I need to do to align with the timeline you're experiencing. Then sit in receptive silence for 10 minutes. Don't try to hear words or see visions. Just remain open to subtle shifts in your awareness. You might feel a slight energetic movement. You might notice certain thoughts arising that have a different quality than your normal thinking. You might experience a sudden knowing about a decision you've been struggling with. These are retrocausal communications, your future self responding to your invitation, sending information backward through the loop. The key to this practice is consistency. You're not trying to force contact. You're establishing a clear channel through repeated intentional connection. Think of it like tuning a radio. The first few days, you're adjusting the frequency, clearing the static, finding the signal. By the second week, the connection becomes clearer, more reliable. By the third week, you'll have established a stable retrocausal link where information flows easily in both directions. Your present self sending questions forward, your future self sending guidance backward, and the loop closes into a coherent feedback system where all your time positions work together instead of existing in isolated separation. There's a specific threshold moment when your perception fully shifts from line to loop, and this moment is unmistakable. I call it the acceleration point. It's when you stop experiencing time as something you move through and start experiencing it as something you navigate within. And when that happens, your life doesn't just change. It transforms at a speed that seems to violate everything you've been taught about how long transformation takes. I experienced my acceleration point 3 years ago, and I can tell you the exact moment it happened. I'd been studying temporal physics, experimenting with loop perception, practicing the exercises I'm sharing with you, but the understanding remained mostly intellectual. I knew conceptually that time was a loop, but I still felt it as a line, still experienced my past as behind me, my future as ahead of me, my present as a narrow point moving forward. Then, one afternoon during a meditation session, something shifted, not gradually, suddenly, like a perceptual click. Like one of those optical illusions where you're seeing a vase and then suddenly you see two faces, and you can never unsee the faces again. I was sitting quietly when I felt my awareness expand out of the present moment, and instead of moving forward or backward through time, I felt myself existing across multiple time positions simultaneously. I could feel yesterday and tomorrow with the same immediacy I felt the present moment. Past and future weren't distant locations. They were right here, accessible, responsive to my consciousness. And in that moment, I understood something that words can barely convey. Time isn't happening to me. I'm happening across time. All my time positions exist at once. And my consciousness moves between them, experiences them, navigates them like someone walking through rooms in a house where all the rooms exist simultaneously. The moment that recognition stabilized, everything in my external life began accelerating. Not metaphorically, literally. Opportunities that should have taken months to develop appeared within days. Connections that normally require years of networking manifested through impossible synchronicities. Projects that typically demand extensive time investment completed themselves with minimal effort. Money started flowing in unexpected ways. Health improvements that doctors said would require lengthy treatment happened spontaneously. It wasn't that I suddenly became capable of doing more or working harder. It's that the universe stopped being constrained by my linear time perception and started responding to my loop awareness, where all moments interpenetrate and influence each other simultaneously. Let me explain exactly what happens in your reality when you shift from linear to loop perception. Because this isn't magic or wishful thinking. This is the measurable physics of how consciousness interacts with space-time itself. Einstein proved that time is relative, that it moves at different speeds depending on the observer's velocity and gravitational field. But what he discovered mathematically, you can experience perceptually. Your consciousness isn't bound by the same time constraints as matter. Your awareness can move through time in ways your body cannot. When you operate from linear time perception, you create what physicists call temporal drag. You're constantly projecting your consciousness forward, trying to reach the future, trying to get to where you want to be. This projection creates resistance because you're fighting against time's actual structure. You're trying to move forward through something that doesn't actually flow forward. It's like trying to walk up a down escalator. You can do it, but it's exhausting, slow, requires constant effort. But when you shift to loop perception, the resistance vanishes. You're no longer trying to move through time. You're recognizing that all positions on the loop exist simultaneously, and you're simply shifting your awareness from one position to another. No journey, no distance, no time required for the shift itself. Here's the practical result. Things you thought would take years happen in months. Things you thought would take months happen in weeks. Things you thought would take weeks happen in days. And sometimes things happen so fast they seem to occur before you even consciously decided you wanted them. This is temporal compression, and it's the natural result of aligning your perception with time's actual loop structure. You're no longer creating artificial distance between present and desired reality. You're recognizing that desired reality already exists in the loop, and you're collapsing your consciousness into alignment with it. Studies on remote viewing and precognition have shown that trained individuals can access information about future events with statistical accuracy that defies chance. But what's actually happening isn't that they're seeing a future that hasn't occurred yet. They're accessing a future that already exists in the quantum probability field. A future that's already real on another position of the loop. And the moment they access that information, they establish a retrocausal link that begins pulling their present self toward that future position, or pulling that future position toward their present self, which in a loop structure amounts to the same thing. In the comments, drop a word, a single word that represents what you're ready to release. Maybe it's fear, maybe it's doubt, maybe it's limitation. Whatever it is, call it out. Not for me, but for you. Because naming what you're letting go is the first step in dissolving it. And remember, by commenting, you're not just participating, you're anchoring this new frequency into your reality. This is the most advanced practice I'll share, and it requires everything you've developed through the previous exercises. This is how you consciously collapse the perceived distance between your current position and your desired position on the loop. Practice this daily for 30 days minimum. The results will provide undeniable evidence that time operates as a loop, not a line. Begin by identifying a specific outcome you desire. Be precise. Not, I want to be happy, but I want to experience financial abundance where money flows easily. Or I want to live in a relationship characterized by deep trust and mutual growth. Specificity matters because you're not creating this outcome. You're locating it on the loop, finding the position where it already exists. Close your eyes and feel into the version of the loop where this outcome is your current reality. Don't visualize it as somewhere you'll get to eventually. Feel it as a position that exists right now, simultaneously with your current position. Notice the quality of that position on the loop. What does it feel like to be there? What's the emotional tone, the energetic signature, the lived experience of that reality? Stay with this feeling until it becomes visceral, embodied, real in your direct experience. You're not imagining something that doesn't exist. You're connecting with something that already exists on a parallel position of the loop. Now, here's the crucial step. While feeling that desired position, simultaneously feel your current position. Hold both in your awareness at once. Don't bounce between them. Feel them simultaneously as two positions on the same loop. When you can hold both positions in simultaneous awareness, you'll feel something extraordinary happen. The distance between them collapses. The separation dissolves. You recognize that they're not distant points on a line. They're adjacent positions on a loop, touching each other, interpenetrating each other, available to each other. In that moment of recognition, you're creating a temporal bridge. Your consciousness is no longer exclusively identified with one position. It's spread across both, experiencing both, existing in both simultaneously. And when that happens, when your awareness collapses the separation, physical reality begins reorganizing to match. This isn't gradual. You won't slowly move from your current position toward your desired position. Instead, you'll start experiencing rapid synchronicities, unexpected opportunities, impossible coincidences that bridge the two positions. Resources will appear, people will show up, circumstances will shift. Your external reality will literally rearrange itself to reflect the collapsed temporal distance in your awareness. Because reality doesn't respond to what you want in the future, reality responds to what you're experiencing now. And when you experience two positions on the loop simultaneously, reality must manifest the bridge between them. I need to address something directly because some of you are reading this and feeling resistance, skepticism, or the familiar weight of this sounds good, but it won't work for me. That resistance isn't random, it's your linear time conditioning, fighting to maintain itself. Because if you truly shift to loop perception, everything your conditioning has taught you about how life works becomes obsolete. Your strategies for managing time, your careful planning, your patient waiting for results, all of it becomes unnecessary. And your ego structure, which has been built around navigating linear time, feels threatened by its own irrelevance. Think about how much of your identity is constructed around your relationship with time. You're someone who plans ahead, or you're someone who struggles with patience, or you're someone who learns from the past, or you're someone working toward a better future. All these identity structures require linear time to exist. In loop perception, there's no ahead to plan for because the future exists now. There's no patience required because there's no distance to wait across. There's no past to learn from because the past is still active, still changeable, still responsive to present awareness. Your entire self-concept gets restructured when time shifts from line to loop. This is why most people intuitively understand temporal loop structure when they hear about it, then immediately forget it and return to linear thinking. The resistance isn't intellectual, it's existential. Your current identity structure requires linear time to maintain its coherence. And your nervous system, which has been conditioned for decades to experience time linearly, produces anxiety when that structure gets threatened. The anxiety doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're approaching the edge of a fundamental perceptual transformation. Here's what I've observed in people who successfully make this shift. They all went through a period I call temporal disorientation. It usually lasts 5 to 10 days. During this period, their relationship with time feels strange, unfamiliar, sometimes uncomfortable. They lose their usual sense of urgency about future goals because the future doesn't feel distant anymore. They lose their usual emotional charge about past events because the past doesn't feel fixed anymore. They exist in a kind of temporal vertigo where the familiar landmarks of before, now, and later stop providing their usual psychological structure. Most people panic during temporal disorientation and immediately revert to linear perception because it feels safer, more normal, more under control. But those who push through, who allow the disorientation without fighting it, emerge on the other side with a completely restructured relationship to time. And that's when the acceleration happens. That's when life starts moving at speeds that seem impossible from the linear perspective. That's when manifestation stops being something you work toward and becomes something that happens spontaneously through temporal collapse. Everything I've shared leads to this integration practice. This is how you live from loop awareness continuously, not just during meditation, but throughout your daily activity. This is how temporal compression becomes your baseline experience rather than an occasional occurrence. The protocol has 3 phases, and they need to be practiced in sequence until they become automatic. Phase 1 is present position awareness. Throughout your day, practice this simple recognition. I am existing in all time positions simultaneously, and this present moment is simply where my conscious attention is currently focused. Don't think about this abstractly. Feel it as direct experience. When you're having a conversation, recognize that this conversation exists across multiple positions on the loop. The words being spoken right now already exist in the immediate future and still exist in the immediate past. You're not moving through the conversation linearly. You're experiencing one continuous loop event from a particular position of focus. When you're making a decision, recognize that all potential outcomes of this decision already exist in parallel positions on the loop. You're not creating the future through your choice. You're selecting which position on the loop to navigate toward. This subtle recognition transforms decision-making from anxious calculation to intuitive navigation. You're not figuring out what will happen. You're feeling which already existing position aligns with your desired experience. Phase 2 is retrocausal integration. This means living with constant awareness that your future self is guiding your present choices. Before taking any significant action, pause and feel into the guidance coming backward through time from your future position. Ask internally, what is my future self showing me about this choice? Then act based on the retrocausal information you receive, even when it contradicts linear logic. Your future self knows how choices play out, because your future self has already experienced the outcomes. Trust that retrocausal guidance over your present moment analytical thinking. This practice requires developing sensitivity to subtle information. Retrocausal guidance doesn't usually come as clear verbal messages. It comes as energetic pulls, slight movements in your body, shifts in emotional tone, sudden knowings that have no logical basis. When you feel a choice that your logical mind says makes no sense, but your gut says feels aligned, that's often retrocausal guidance from a future position on the loop. Follow it. Document what happens. You'll quickly accumulate evidence that your future self provides more accurate navigation than your present self's analytical mind. Phase 3 is past fluidity engagement. This is the most challenging phase because you've been conditioned to believe the past is fixed, unchangeable, set in stone. But in loop structure, the past is as fluid and responsive as the future. Your present consciousness can send information backward through time to reshape how past events affect you. Now, this isn't about changing what happened factually. It's about changing the meaning, the emotional charge, the limiting beliefs that got installed during past experiences. Practice this specifically. Identify a past event that still carries negative emotional weight, something that happened years ago that still affects how you show up in life now. Close your eyes and feel into that past moment. But instead of experiencing it as a fixed memory, experience it as a currently active position on the loop. That moment isn't over, it's still happening. Still accessible. Still responsive to your consciousness. Now, from your current position of greater awareness and understanding, send compassion, wisdom, and resolution backward to your past self experiencing that difficult moment. You're not changing what happened. You're changing your past self's relationship to what happened. And because that past position is still active on the loop, still receiving information, the meaning and charge of the event shifts. You'll feel this as a sudden release, a dissolving of emotional weight, a sense that something that felt heavy for years suddenly feels neutral or even supportive. This is retrocausal healing, and it's only possible when you recognize that your past exists simultaneously with your present and remains responsive to your current consciousness. I want to share what your life actually looks like when loop perception stabilizes into your baseline experience. Because the shift isn't just internal, it manifests in specific, observable, repeatable patterns in your external circumstances. You'll know you've successfully shifted from line to loop when you start experiencing these phenomena consistently. First, synchronicities multiply exponentially, but these aren't random coincidences. They're evidence of retrocausal coordination, where your future self is arranging circumstances to align with optimal outcomes. You'll think about someone, and they'll contact you within hours. You'll need specific information, and you'll overhear a conversation that provides exactly what you need. You'll be in the right place at the right time. So frequently, it stops feeling like luck and starts feeling like temporal coordination. Second, decision-making becomes instantaneous and accurate. When you're living from loop awareness, you're not trying to predict outcomes from your current position. You're accessing information from future positions where outcomes have already manifested. So decisions that used to require days or weeks of analysis resolve themselves in moments. You simply know which choice aligns with your desired position on the loop. And when you track these instantaneous decisions over time, you'll find they lead to outcomes that your analytical mind could never have predicted, but turn out to be optimal. Third, manifestation speed reaches levels that seem impossible from linear perception. I'm talking about desires manifesting in days or weeks that conventional wisdom says should take months or years. This happens because you're no longer creating distance between desire and fulfillment. You're recognizing that the fulfilled version already exists on the loop, and you're collapsing your consciousness into alignment with it. The external circumstances rearrange themselves to match your temporal position shift. It looks like magic from outside. From inside loop awareness, it's simple physics. Fourth, your past stops controlling your present. Trauma, limiting beliefs, old patterns that used to feel permanent and fixed suddenly become changeable. Not through years of therapy or endless inner work, but through retrocausal healing, where your present consciousness sends resolution backward to past positions. People around you will notice this. They'll say you seem different, lighter, no longer carrying weight you used to carry. That's because you've stopped experiencing your past as a burden you're dragging forward through linear time. You've recognized it as a fluid position on the loop that remains responsive to your current awareness. We've covered immense ground, but it all collapses into one simple recognition that you can verify in your direct experience right now. Time is not a line you move through. Time is a loop you exist within. All your time positions, past, present, and future, exist simultaneously in the eternal now. Your consciousness can navigate between these positions, influence them, experience them, collapse the apparent distance between them. This isn't a belief you need to adopt. This is recognition available right now. Notice that you're aware of hearing these words. That awareness exists outside of time. It's not moving from past through present into future. It's simply here, constant, unchanging. While temporal experiences flow through it, you are that awareness, not the temporal self moving through time, but the awareness within which all time positions appear. When you stabilize in this recognition, when you stop identifying with the moving self and recognize yourself as the awareness the loop exists within, everything accelerates. Because you're no longer creating friction by fighting time's structure, you're allowing its natural flow. You're navigating its loop architecture. You're experiencing its simultaneity. Reality has been waiting for this recognition. Your future self has been sending signals backward your entire life, trying to guide you here. Your past self has been reaching forward, trying to contribute its lessons. All your time positions working together, coordinated across the loop, collaborating to bring your consciousness to this understanding. Right now, the moment you see time as a loop, everything speeds up. Not because time moves faster, because you've stopped experiencing it as something you move through and started experiencing it as something you navigate within. The distance collapses. The waiting ends. The future touches the present, touches the past, in one continuous field of simultaneous existence. You are not moving through time. You are time experiencing itself through your consciousness. And that recognition changes everything. Welcome to acceleration. Welcome to temporal collapse. Welcome to the loop that's been here all along, waiting for you to stop looking at it linearly and start experiencing it as it actually is. Circular, complete, all moments happening now. All versions of you existing simultaneously. All outcomes already manifested in parallel positions. All futures accessible through present awareness. All pasts changeable through current consciousness. The loop is not a concept to understand. It's a reality to experience. And you're experiencing it right now, whether you consciously recognize it or not. The only question is whether you'll continue perceiving it through the limited filter of linear time, or whether you'll allow the shift into loop awareness that makes your life accelerate beyond what you currently believe possible. Time is waiting. But not in the future. Right here. Right now. In the eternal present where all moments exist together. The acceleration begins the moment you stop waiting for it linearly and recognize it's already here. Already active. Already transforming your reality from the inside out. You are the loop. You always have been. Welcome home to temporal truth. Make sure you share this video with your friends and family. For you, it may be just sharing. But for someone who's struggling to understand why their life feels stuck, this might be the breakthrough they've been waiting for. Your sharing spreads understanding, and that positive energy amplifies everything you're manifesting. Be the friend who shares breakthroughs. Pass this on if you felt something shift.